Hey, y'all, and welcome if you're new. On the bench today is an incredibly damaged Fender acoustic guitar. This is a Tim Armstrong HellCat acoustic in natural finish. This guitar came to me about a year ago, and unfortunately, it is irreversibly damaged, or at least not without incredible intervention. The neck is extremely bowed, as you can see here. The back of the heel was completely pulling up, and I repaired that off camera. The truss rod is completely stripped, so there's no way that you can move it. And I believe they torqued the truss rod so hard that it was starting to break the fingerboard in half, so I had to repair that. But all of that was done off screen, so we will get into what I did record. So the first thing I did was start filing a new bridge with my Dremel tool to make sure it fit where the old bridge should. This bridge had to be much taller if it was going to be a lap steel, just in order to sit above the pickup and above the frets and to not fret out. Then I started filing down the cavity where the nut was so I could replace it with a new nut. I wanted to replace it with a tall nut so that the strings would be equal distance off the fingerboard, but I didn't have any nuts laying around, and the neck was already bowed so much that there wasn't really going to be much issue. And to show you the parts for this build, I'm using one 500K pot, one output jack, that new bridge, and this Curtis Novak H22 gold foil bass pickup from January 30th, 1962. To get this pickup installed, the first thing I had to do was Dremel just a hair off of the pick guard in order for this pickup to sit flush on the body. I positioned this pickup right against the bridge. Next, I drilled one hole for the wire to go down into. And because this pickup is a flat bottom design meant to sit on the top of a solid body guitar, I was able to install this pickup with just 3 holes, 2 for the screws, 1 for the wire. With the pickup secured, now I could start wiring this thing. To wire something like this is incredibly simple. Most pickups will have 2 wires coming off, a bare or a ground, and then a hot wire. Of course, when soldering, you'll always want to use your flux. I like to dab my flux on whatever I'm going to be hitting first, and then put some flux on my solder before I use it. And now I'm soldering that hot wire to the middle pole. Now I'm wiring the ground to the pot itself and the last pole of the pot to itself. Now I needed some wire to connect my volume pot to my output jack. To do that, I used this 9-volt battery connector, which had a ground wire and a hot wire, the exact length that I needed. I then cleaned up the ends of each of these wires. Then I twisted the ends for ease of use, dipped the tips into the flux, and then got them into place. First, I soldered the hot wire to the middle pole, and then the ground to the last pole. I then connected both of those to the correct spots on the output jack. After that, I had to find the correct diameter of drill bit for my output jack and volume pot. I started drilling the volume pot hole first. Unfortunately, I made my first critical error. Inside acoustic guitars, there's tons of this bracing seen here in this photo, and unfortunately, I drilled right into a brace, thus making it where my pot would not at all sit flush up against the inside of the body and wouldn't poke through the hole. My solution to this was taking an old Les Paul style pick guard and turning it into a giant poker chip, thus covering my hole and allowing the pot to sit flush once I drill a massive hole. Not a professional fix, but it's fine for this guitar. I cut out my poker chip with some vinyl snips that I had laying around, and then used my Dremel tool and some sandpaper to smooth out the edges. It wasn't perfectly round, but it was good enough. It was at this point I made my second error, drilling the hole in an incredibly stupid way. Warning, I'm about to drill directly into the palm of my hand. While it did work, I was now left with an injury, so I had to tend to that pretty quick. I'll be tending my hand today with some alcohol and a paper towel. If you're working on guitars, this kind of thing is going to happen regularly, especially with restringing guitars. I don't actually know how to put a band-aid on a palm. If anybody knows how to do that, please let me know in the comment. But with that out of the way, I now had a completed poker chip. It looked very rough, but now I could drill my new hole. It looks incredibly rough, but it'll do. But unfortunately, I drilled through another brace. So I began widening out the hole of my file, and I decided, since these braces were much smaller and this guitar was already irreversibly damaged, I would just knock one of those braces loose with my screwdriver. But with that, I was able to pull the pot through flush and get it stuck through the poker chip, setting it in place. Now we can move on to the output jack, which gave me an equal amount of trouble. I couldn't fit my fat elbow into this thing. So unfortunately, I had to take out all of the wiring to give myself more access. I also decided I wanted to add a plate, so I began dremeling for that. But with all that, it was much easier to pull through, but my plate didn't fit.
I'll be keeping my eye out.
So I decided to swap out for this cream plate, which matched my little poker chip and the binding pretty well. Now my output jack was finished. To see if all this wiring was worth it. And it makes a noise. Now we can set this output jack in place. Flip her back over. And then add some screws to this poker chip so it doesn't stick up awkwardly. And then pick a knob for it. This one fit the best, so I threw it on. Then to set the original electronics back in place.
Phenomenal pianist.
Set our original bridge in. And with that, we're almost finished. But my bench is incredibly messy, so here's a little time lapse of me cleaning it up before I finish this guitar. The strings I'm putting on this are D'Addario XL11s, and I swapped out the original end pin for these cool brass ones that I had. I didn't glue the nut down, so I'm doing these strings staggered just so the nut doesn't like slide out of place while I'm tuning it. These end pins can be extremely tricky if you're not careful, and will fly out on you. Now to plug this thing in and see if it makes a noise. if you can tell by the look on my face, I'm pretty pleased. Now I'll take this thing home and give you guys some direct audio samples. I'd really like to thank everybody who made it to the end of this video and to everybody who watched the previous video. It really means a lot to me that you guys enjoy something I put out. And if you guys enjoy this content, I will be doing a lot more of it in the future. I repair and restore guitars every day, sometimes several a day. So I've got no shortage of things to talk about. But if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. I guess leave me a comment if you have any ideas of something I should do in the future or anything you'd like to see.
Me bottle is hot. Boom! Oh, bah, ah, creep! Good shot, man. That's the way you do it. We did it, mate. You're weak, I'm strong. Burn in hell. Never be a bloody lesson to you, you big ugly girl. I'm going to blast you into thin glue. Kablooey! Help me! Bloody brilliant! Harden lads!